I'm curious how you have dealt with the mental game when it comes to loose skin after weight loss. I've lost a lot of weight and I'm now dealing with the loose skin, and it's hard to have a positive attitude when I see myself in the mirror and in pictures. I know adding muscle mass will help, but I'm worried that I'll still only see the loose skin. How do you manage the mind that comes with this? Thank you.
It really is a mind. For years, I really believed the loose skin would just eventually go away, or that I needed, like, red light therapy or chemical peels or creams or lotions or potions or snake oil. And even building muscle mass, like, I don't know how much loose skin you have, Rich, but there was no amount of building muscle mass that was going to fill up my loose skin. I weighed, just like, based on simple calculations, fat weighs less than muscle and takes up more space. And so if your skin was stretched out to fit a bunch of fat, it's going to be really hard to fill that void with muscle. And I unfortunately, so the only thing that can really be done about loose skin is surgery. And then there's the problem that, like, never once, I had two surgeries to remove loose skin. I still have loose skin in the areas that I had surgery on. I actually had a guy on this show named Josh Peck who talked about having skin surgery, and he had to get a second surgery on the same area that he had had a surgery on, and still had some loose skin. And so, like, loose skin is going to be there. I've found, when I have really very specific goals, I don't know how to say this. I don't want to I don't want to make people hopeless. I'm almost always disappointed when I get to the finish line. You know, when I wanted to ride my bike 100 miles in a day and I did it, that didn't seem like enough. It didn't, like, there was no major change. I almost think it's because those goals, I expect something more out of them. And so when it was weight loss, I wanted to be a completely new person that I was happy with when I lost all the weight I needed to lose. And then I wasn't. And I wasn't for many reasons, because the only difference was that I weighed less. And I really felt like that was the cause of every woe in my life. And it just isn't. It wasn't. Definitely was an improvement in some areas. I didn't have to get a seatbelt extender on a plane, and my lower back and feet hurt less, and I slept better. So, like, that was all very cool, but I didn't have whatever mental malaise that I experienced in my life, that didn't go away. And I wasn't suddenly filled with confidence, and I wasn't suddenly happy with the way I looked. And loose skin is a big factor, because loose skin, we can then pin all of these things on loose skin, because, like, it is really an objective thing that is still there as evidence of our former condition. And so it can suddenly, for me, it was suddenly like, well, all these things I expected to feel when I lost weight, I'll feel when I get rid of loose skin. And I didn't want to have surgery. And then I had surgery, and it was a disaster. And I didn't feel better. Nothing changed again. Many years later, I'm glad I had the surgery, and I'm glad I got rid of that loose skin. Now I have these giant, huge scars, and I find myself thinking, well, I'd feel better about myself if I just didn't have these scars. And you know what? It's just not true. None of that is going to make me feel better about myself. So again, these are the things that I was trying to solve with weight loss. I don't know if they are similar to what you're trying to solve with weight loss, but if you're trying to get into an airplane seat more comfortably, or experience moving your body through space and time more comfortably, then the loose skin isn't an issue. because you can do all that with the loose skin. If it is something to do with self-confidence and liking the way you look, I think that that's a two-pronged thing. Yes, getting rid of the loose skin might help, but you still might be left with all of the crappy ways you feel about yourself after you get rid of the loose skin. And so I think, I don't think loose skin is talked about nearly as much as it could, or is such a crappy word to say, like, because who cares what people should do? People should do what they want to do. But loose skin was such a shock to me. I didn't expect it at all. And so I wish at some point somebody, while I was dieting, had said, like, now listen, one of the things that's going to occur, and it's, there was an article written on me. I think it was in the UK Daily Mail. Paparazzi followed me on my bike, and they did a whole article on the downside of weight loss, and they showed close-up images of my legs, because that was really the only part that was super visible, and all this loose skin. And it hurt my feelings a lot because I had worked so hard and I was out riding my bike, and loose skin, I don't think it looks great. I'm not sitting here pretending my loose skin looks great, but like, that's the first thing that went into the press about my weight loss, felt hurtful to me, and kind of reinforced this idea of like, like maybe I shouldn't talk about it or be vulnerable about it, if people are going to just say, like, what's the point? You're going to have loose skin. Because the reality is, even with loose skin today, I wouldn't trade that for the weight. I wouldn't go like, well, let's fill this loose skin up with fat. I don't want to do that. I don't think that's going to lead me to feeling more content with myself. So I think, this is one of the areas where I think Healthy at Every Size gets some things right, which is like, I do believe that there is a place in society for shame. Shame, I think, is, when there's a group of people existing in a way, like a culture that have a culture, and there are certain cultural norms, and you step outside of those cultural norms, then we experience shame because the group goes like, hey, we're not cool with that. Look at the use of some language today. When I was a kid, we said every word when we rapped along to a rap song. I can't do that now because my kids, in their culture, it's not okay. And I don't want to like do stuff around them that really, it's really not okay for them. Culture has changed in that way, and so there's shame associated with using those words, and like, that's okay with me. I don't know about, you hear like the white girl at the concert sang the rap song and then she got kicked out of college. I don't know that that's right, but I'm totally okay with it being like, no, this is the cultural standard today. We don't do that. People don't do that. So fine, I'll play by those rules. And if I step outside of it and I catch myself singing along to Biggie Smalls in a car with my kids and they go, Dad, you're going to get canceled. And I go like, oh, I'm gonna experience shame right now because I stepped outside of those bounds. But I think there can come a point where we're feeling shame that's so overwhelming and debilitating that we are piling this garbage onto ourselves about something that we largely is out of our control. So, like, once you got the loose skin, until you can set up and get a surgery, you're gonna have loose skin. That's out of your control. Feeling shame about it is a waste of time, in my opinion. You can recognize that it's a byproduct of having been successful at something you worked really hard to do. You can acknowledge that it's not ideal, but then, like, you kind of, I think, got to just move on. That is my thought.
Can I say something on this topic? So, I'm not an expert, and this is your podcast. And
No, no, this is
the,
clearly
the
our podcast,
the
Paige.
question was for you, but I recently experienced weight loss, which is a topic for another time and all that. But since October, I've been on a journey, and I lost weight in a probably, more rapid way. I exercised, probably not enough, strength training wise and all that. But
I
I,
just want to say, for the
yeah,
record, Paige, I think you did great.
thank you. Thank you. I now for the first time in my life have loose skin in some places, right? So when I first saw it, and it's just interesting spots like my arms, kind of like if I were to wear a strapless dress now, or not strapless, like a, show my upper arm, I'd feel, embarrassed. I'm like, oh wow, I have loose skin, or my thighs or whatever. Okay, fine. When I first saw it, I started getting upset about it. And I started going, oh my God, but then just like negative thoughts and talk and whatever. Okay. And then I said to myself one day, no, dude, like, oh, now you're going to be upset about this. You're like actually handling this problem that's been driving you crazy. You talk about it all the time. You're constantly worried. I'm fat. I'm fat. Now you're losing weight and you've lost more weight than you intended. You're happy with how your clothes fit. Now you're going to be upset about that. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. Now, I'm not saying maybe mine is not as much as whoever is asking this question. And I'm not trying to compare myself to anyone else. I'm only saying, in my limited experience with this, I don't know how I came to it, but I just decided I'm not going to be upset about this. I'm going to validate the right things, what I did that was right and what I was going for. And I was going for feeling better in my clothes, being healthier because I lost weight and I wasn't stressing my body out, and potential, effects of that in the future, and long term health. And I'm older, and all the reasons I did what I did. I am going to validate what's right, and I'm not going to focus on what is quote unquote wrong. Does it mean I'm super happy with how my body looks? No. Am I wearing more like shirts? I'm going to a wedding this weekend. Guess what? I'm wearing a long sleeve dress because I'm just more comfortable that way. But I just decided not to give it too much credence or credit or whatever. You know what I mean?
I
And
do.
not
Yeah.
saying I'll feel that way forever. This is what I'm working on, is just validating the right things, because I have a tendency to go, find something that's wrong. So I'm just like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm gonna be happy for sake.
Good. Yeah, no,
So
I think
yeah.
that's exactly right. And I have this with so many things. Whenever I start an acting job, it starts off with me and the script alone. And
Mm,
I read the script, and in my mind, I visualize what this will become. And that's part of like me deciding, do I want to be a part of this? What is the story, and is the story interesting, and does it compel me, and all of that. And then, you realize that like at no point does it ever look exactly as I imagined it to look. And can I be okay with that? Am I happy for the majority of the work I've done, that it came out and I can acknowledge that it's good, even though it wasn't exactly how I imagined it? So I think with stuff like weight loss and other things coming up, like, and some people might go like, well, I don't, that loose skin is so horrible, I would rather have the weight back. And that's fair enough. This is a
totally.
personal thing that you got to like figure out on your own.
Hmm.
I would not rather have the weight. If there was no way to get rid of loose skin, if there was no surgery to remove it, I would rather be the weight I am with billowing folds of loose skin than have those folds filled taut with fat. That's my preference. And there are ways, they're not easy, they're very difficult, they cost a lot of money, but there are ways to have the loose skin taken off. And then there are guys like John Cloud,
Yeah, I was
who,
just gonna say him. Yeah.
he's obese to beast on Instagram. He has had a large amount of loose skin for maybe a decade now, and he has no plans at all to have it removed. And he takes his shirt off at the beach and he talks about it, and it's great. And I really tip my cap to him. And I think that it is, it's just one of these things. It's not super discussed. You don't go into many fad diets going, look, if you're obese, one of the byproducts of this is you will most likely have a bunch of loose skin. And you most likely are not going to be super thrilled with it, right? I
Yeah.
don't even think John is super thrilled with his loose skin.
Hmm.
I think he does a damn good job being okay with it.
Yeah.
And I think he is really okay with it, but I suspect that took some time and effort on his part.
Mm-hmm.
So those are my 2 cents about loose skin.
Love it. Thank you so much. If anyone else has a question for Ethan and an occasional something I decide to share, you can, unsolicited, you can send it to us at americanglutton.net.